everyone, and welcome back to my Lawn Bowls for Fun channel. Now this is an unusual video for me to do because it's not a coaching video, which is what I normally do. That's what Lawn Bowls for Fun is all about, sort of teaching new people to play bowls. But today I want to talk about my indoor bowling club, or the demise of my indoor bowling club, sadly. And I've done this video for a lot of people that want to know what's going on. I've got a lot of friends all over the country, all over the world, that have asked me to keep them informed about what's happening to my indoor bowling club, because they do know, we are in trouble. And also for the members of the club and anyone else in the area that knows about Rushmoor. So for those people interested, obviously continue watching. For those that really don't want to know the sad story of what's happened to our bowling club, then I totally understand that. Right, so I think I'll start at the very beginning. Rushmoor Indoor Bowling Club was formed in 1976 when the local council, Rushmoor Borough Council, built a new leisure centre for Farnborough near the shopping centre. And one of the activities in the leisure centre was a 6-ring bowling green, which was absolutely brilliant. You no doubt would have seen, if you look back on videos I've done, some of them I've done indoors at Rushmoor. In fact, the last one I did, which was back in November, was the last time I was there actually, which I'll explain more about later. So the bowling club was formed in 1976. So Rushmoor Indoor Bowling Club hire rinks from the leisure centre every day of the week. Mornings, afternoons, evenings. We've always hired a number of rinks for the members. Currently our membership's about 350 people. It was double that back in the sort of late 70s and early 80s. But then some years later, another bowling club opened fairly near, well, about 15-minute drive, a purpose-built bowling club, and a lot of people went there because it is a a place where there's a bar and there's a restaurant, and we can't supply that. We just have 6 rinks. We have a very, very small, what we call a bowler's lounge, but there's no bar in there. We make tea and coffee in there and serve cakes and biscuits, but that's all about what we can do. What we can't do, and we've never been able to do, is host sort of big games like county or district games, because we just haven't got the social sort of facilities. When it was built, it was probably state of the art. They did make some mistakes though. If you've seen various videos I've done, you can see that we can't really get off the back of the green. The wall's right where the end of the rink is, and there's not much room on either side as well. So it is a little bit tight, and it's a little bit, I suppose some people complain that it's a little bit cold because it's just like bowling in a massive hangar. But in fact, I've always liked it there, and the bowling surface has particularly been very good. It suits me. I've played in lots of other bowling clubs, and the one thing I think we did get right is the bowling surface was perfect. It seemed to suit a lot of people. So what happened was, about 3 years ago, we started to hear rumours that the local council were concerned about the building, the leisure centre, that because it was built in 1976, it needed a lot of work doing to it to bring it up to sort of modern day standards. When they realised how much it was going to cost, they decided rather than try and improve an old building, they would just build a new one and have a building that will see us right through the 21st century. Can't argue with that. It sounds like a reasonable idea. If the sums worked out in favour of doing that, then rather than renovate an old building, then you can't argue with that at all. The problem came when they did a survey and they started looking at what they would like in that new building. And despite asking what all the people that used the building wanted, and despite asking local people what they wanted, it didn't turn out very well for the bowlers, because it was decided that bowls would not be a part of any new leisure centre that was built. So this was obviously bad news for us. In fact, it's following a trend. The same happened another bowling club in Reading that was shut down. The centre was decided, the council decided to close the centre, and the same's happened then. They're not going to have bowls. I'm afraid a fact of life is that bowls just doesn't make enough money, and these days it's all about money. I'm not knocking that. I do know that local councils are starved of funds now. The government doesn't give as much to councils now as they used to, especially for leisure. But it's a great shame that is the case, because it's now all about making money, and if it doesn't make money, they won't do it. End of. It doesn't matter what we feel about it. Although we have 350 members, about another 100 people do use the centre. We have two U3A groups use it, and members of the public use it as well. So there's about 450 bowlers, but that's not enough still for it to make money, seemingly. However, what the council did say was that they would look at do a feasibility study and see if they can find a new home for Rushmoor Indoor Bowling Club and for people that want to play indoor bowls in the winter. And with that in mind, they started looking, and Rushmoor started looking for a building or another bowling club where they have room to build an indoor facility. And therein lies the problem. There really aren't that many alternatives. The strange thing is, and again, I don't know whether I got the figures right at all, but we were told that if we were going to have bowls inside a leisure centre, it would cost £2 million. I don't know where they get that figure from, and they may well be right, I don't know. That's the figure I heard. I think one of the problems is that a leisure centre has a big staff running it, and the bowling club has to sort of help pay towards that. And as we know, most bowling clubs are run by volunteers. In fact, Rushmoor Indoor Bowling Club is really, I mean, we're left to get on with their own thing, really, other than paying them for the hiring of the rinks for every session we have. We run the whole thing completely. So it's difficult to sort of know for sure whether that figure is right, or whether they think that building a standalone bowling club, which then eventually would be run by the members rather than have to staff it, whether that would be cheaper. They seem to indicate it would be, but again, I've seen no figures. So we were given notice that within a couple of years a new centre would be built, and in that time they would hopefully find us a new home. Well, nothing very much has happened on that front. They have found apparently a club that might be willing to build a bowling club, or they intended building a new clubhouse anyway, and they would be interested to see whether the council would help them build a bit more than that. But it's gone no further at all. Possibly due to COVID, that hasn't helped matters. Unfortunately for us, this last winter we only got a week of bowling. The season before we had to finish early, because in March sort of 2020, COVID really started to take effect in the UK, so the indoor bowling season was ended about a month earlier than it would normally be ending. And then this year we hoped to get some bowling in, but of course we got hit by the second part of COVID, and there was a delay in opening in the first place anyway, because sports centres or leisure centres were closed. When they were allowed to reopen, there were strict measures, quite rightly so, to make sure everybody was protected. And it took quite a long time and a lot of hard work for our committee to work out with the leisure centre a safe procedure in which we could bowl. And we just got that started for about a week, and then everything shut down again, and we haven't opened since. Now, the plans for the new leisure centre, I'm not quite sure what's happening on that. I don't know whether it's been delayed or whether they're still on target to build a new leisure centre. But we're going to be homeless when eventually the leisure centre does close. The idea was to build a new leisure centre while the old one was still running, And then when the new leisure centre was built, because they had land next to it to do that with, everything was going to transfer over, and that's when we would have been without a home. And in the meantime, we'd hoped that we would have found one by then. But that would say that's not getting anywhere at the moment. Then the COVID thing happened, as I've just mentioned, and we are due finally in the United Kingdom. Leisure centres are going to be able to open at the end of March, but it's more complicated than that, because our leisure centre isn't run by the local council anymore. They have a deal with a company that runs the leisure centre on their behalf, and the company that runs the leisure centre at the moment, their contract was due to end on the end of March. It was going to be extended, and I don't think there was a problem with that. I think they were looking for other companies to come in and put tenders in, not only to run the centre until the new one was built, but then to take over running the new centre. And the company that are doing that, I won't mention their name because I've got no extra grant with them, but I won't mention the name of the company. But the company that are running it at the moment were going to be putting in a bid, and the last we heard that the other companies weren't putting in bids because of COVID, so it was almost certain that that contract was going to be extended at least for another year or 18 months, or even until the new centre was built. But a bombshell came a couple of weeks ago when we heard that that company have decided that they don't want to do that anymore, because they feel that the way things have gone on with COVID, it's going to take a long time for people to get back into indoor sports, and they calculated that they would be losing between £500,000 and £2 million a year, and they weren't prepared to undertake that sort of commitment and loss unless the council were prepared to underwrite it, basically to cover them if that happens. So the council had a meeting with the committee that sort of runs that side of things, and they had a what they call a cabinet meeting last week, and when they decided that they wouldn't do that, and they would allow the company that runs it to leave, and therefore the leisure centre won't be reopening in the end of March like all other centres are. It won't be reopening. It's going to remain closed. And what they're going to do instead is to bring forward the building of the new centre, close the old one down, knock it down, and try and speed things up to get a new centre. It's not an ideal thing for them, I suppose, really, because it means they're going to lose all that business, and it's going to be difficult to get it back again, all the clubs that are there at the moment. Now, in a way, I can understand why, for financial reasons, they made that decision. But it was just the last thing we needed. That sort of, really, we were struggling to find a new home and struggling to persuade the council to spend money to find us a new home. But here we are now. Because even if they find a new home for us, I can't see them building that in time for the next winter season, which means we would have missed all this season, all but a week, or the last season, should I say, and another full year. And frankly, it's going to decimate our membership, because those that are really, really keen are going to go elsewhere. I don't know the actual how many people will go elsewhere, but I would think roughly a third will go up or find a new place to bowl. Probably there's 2 or 3 other clubs. The nearest is about a 15-minute drive. We've got 2 others 30-minute drive. So I suppose those that are keen enough will go to those clubs, and they won't ever come back to Rushmoor. A third might well be happy to wait for 2 or 3 years before we get a new club, but by then about another third would have probably given up completely. They won't start again. So I really cannot see huge numbers left out of the 350 original members. I think they'd be lucky if they get 100, maybe 150 if they're really lucky. And is that going to be worth building a new bowling club for? I can see what the council are going to be thinking. Hold on, we're not talking about 350 people anymore. We're talking about 100, 150. I don't know. A lot of people I've spoken to feel like me that we just don't see it happening. a lot of people feel very unhappy, very bitter that the fact that we were never included in a new leisure centre, and we felt we just weren't listened to. Bowls is still very much played by the older generation. We're trying to get younger people to play, and certainly there are more younger people playing now than there ever were before. But it's still a fact of life is that probably 80 or even 85, 90% of the people that play bowls are over 55. And a lot of those bowlers I've spoken to just feel that they're not cared about anymore. It just the older generation, they're not listened to. I mean, I'm not sure that's quite strictly true, but I think a lot of people do feel that is the case. I can understand the council's dilemma. They've got to run a business. They can't run it at a loss. There's not money. Money doesn't grow on trees. They're getting less funding from the government. They're probably hugely in debt because of the COVID crisis. So I do sympathise towards that. But it's just a shame that these days the health of the older generation doesn't have much sway. They just think of the money side of it, and a lot of people feel that is wrong. So I'm afraid that's it. At the moment, we don't have a home. We won't be bowling again. We're not allowed to go back in. We've got to go and clear our belongings from Rushmoor Indoor Bowling Club in the next few weeks. Whether we ever will find another home, it's looking like that's not likely to happen, to be perfectly honest. Myself and quite a few people that want to bowl will be moving to another club. I don't think they'll be coming back to Rushmoor, sadly. And it's very sad, what's happened. Say partly due to the fact that we lost our home. It would have been in a new leisure centre. We never were going to have that anyway. And now the COVID has really stuck the nail in the coffin and finishes off completely. I think the council will probably be quite relieved to hear that we're going to fold. I think we will fold, to be perfectly honest, because I'm given to understand that the entire committee are so fed up with the way things have gone this last 2 years. They put a lot of hard work into trying to keep the club alive. And they just feel that now it's a lost cause. And I understand that the majority of them aren't going to stand anymore. And I don't think there's enough people there that want to come in. They know what they're going to be coming into, a huge problem. And I just don't think there are people out there that want to do that. So sadly, it does look the end of Rushmoor Indoor Bowling Club. And yeah, that's a very sad tale, isn't it, really? It's maybe it's a sign of the times. I don't know. I've been there since 1984, so for me it's a very sad occasion. And when we're going in, we've got to clear our lockers, and we know that we won't be back there, and that's it. And I think a lot of people are very, very upset about what's happened. As I say, it's unfortunate that COVID is the final straw that broke the camel's back, as they say. That was the final straw for us. We just couldn't survive the fact that we were going to be effectively shut, not only for most of this year, all but a week, probably all of next year, and even the year after by the time they get something going. And that will decimate any club, wouldn't it? So it's a bit of a sad video to make, really. I'm sorry. I don't hate to be. I'm not a negative person. I mean, I look at it like this. I used to be a member of another club, in fact, a little bit further away, and that's what I'll be doing. I'll be going there. I'll be going to East Camberley Indoor Bowling Club. It's about a 15-minute drive from me, and I can get there at a push on a bus because we're only a one-car family these days. I can't keep taking the car every time I want to go and have a game of bowls, but I can get there on the bus. So it's doable for me. It's not doable for a lot of people, so I'm lucky. And I was a member there many years ago. It's a lovely club, and I know I'll settle in quite quickly. But it's still sad for me that Rushmoor, which may not have been a purpose-built bowling club, it was just a part of a sports centre, but it had a great atmosphere, a lovely bowling green, And it's so sad that that has now finally come to an end. So that's about all I can say. If anything changes, I'll obviously let you know. I don't think it will. I think, I know what's going to happen. The council may well still try and find us a home, but I think they'll come to the conclusion that for those numbers that are left, it's not going to be worth spending that sort of money on. And indoor bowls in the northeast part of Hampshire or the Rushmoor area will be no more. A sad day. But I'd like to end on a positive note. We seem to be in a position where come the end of April, beginning of May, we will be able to start bowling outdoors. It will be limited initially, but the roadmap for getting this country back on its feet indicates that by sometime in June we should be able to almost start then playing normal bowls. So I think the first half of the season is going to be much like last year. It will be controlled and limited to just playing smaller games, smaller numbers, but still we can get on the green. We had a very successful season last season outdoors at Farmer Bowling Club. And but by halfway through the season, things should improve in more. So by the end of the season, we should get a good deal of bowling in this year. So that's the very positive side. And of course, by this time next year, we'll be looking forward to hopefully a full season. So it's been a dreadful time for everybody, this COVID thing. But we're seeing light at the end of the tunnel, and we will be able to get back to outdoor bowls certainly, and enjoy the company of our fellow bowlers. And it certainly will make us appreciate what a lovely sport it is. How lovely it'll be to be out there in the sunshine bowling and having a laugh. And those that want to take it seriously can take it a bit more seriously. But the important thing is we will be back together having a good time, and that is what it is all about. Right, so look after yourself in the meantime, and look forward to bowling. And look forward to seeing a lot of the people watching this video locally. Look forward to seeing you on the bowling green. If not this year, certainly next year, but I think it'll be this year. Right, look after yourself. Goodbye.